When God blesses you, He doesn't whisper, He makes it known in ways that cannot be ignored. These signs are not always thunderous or dramatic. In fact, some are so quietly powerful they shift the atmosphere of your life without making a sound. People often mistake blessings for material abundance, money, recognition, possessions. But the truth, God's blessings dig deeper. They touch your spirit, reorder your path, and awaken parts of your soul you didn't even know were asleep. If you've been wondering whether God's favor is resting on you, pay close attention, because the signs are already there, woven into your daily life like sacred threads of divine intention. Before we continue, type "I receive His blessing" in the comments as your declaration of faith. Let it be your signal to heaven that you're ready for what's already on its way. One of the first and most powerful signs of God's blessing is the arrival of a peace that doesn't make sense. It's not the peace that comes from everything going your way. No, this is the kind of peace that holds you steady even when the winds of life are blowing hard against you. It calms your thoughts, softens your worries, and wraps itself around your heart like a warm blanket in the middle of a storm. This peace isn't logical, it's spiritual. It's divine proof that God is present, actively working in your life even when you can't see what's ahead. This peace is the anchor that keeps your soul from drifting into fear. You could be in the middle of chaos, bills unpaid, relationships strained, health uncertain, and still feel a calm that confuses the people around you. That's because it's not coming from your circumstances. It's coming from God Himself. When you're walking in His favor, peace isn't something you chase, it's something that finds you. It fills your spirit with strength, reminding you that you're not walking through life alone. Another unmistakable sign of blessing is divine alignment. Things begin to unfold in ways you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. That job that felt out of reach, the door opens, that person you needed to meet, suddenly they cross your path. You begin to notice that the pieces of your life are falling into place, not by luck, but by the hand of God. When His blessing is upon you, favor shows up in unexpected places. Closed doors begin to open, and what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. But blessings aren't only about what God gives. They're also about who you become. When He begins to bless your life, you'll notice a transformation in your thoughts, your actions, and your desires. Your heart grows softer, your patience lengthens, your love deepens, and suddenly, you're not just receiving blessings, you're becoming one. You reflect God's light in ways that inspire others, not because you try to be perfect, but because you're walking closely with the one who is. One of the clearest signs that God's blessing is on your life is when opportunities begin to appear in places you never expected. These aren't just random strokes of good luck, they're moments of divine orchestration. When you look back, you'll realize those closed doors from the past weren't denials. They were delays. God was preparing something better, something greater, something more aligned with your purpose. And when His timing arrives, you won't have to force anything. The door will open smoothly, effortlessly, because it was never locked to begin with. It was just waiting for the right moment. Have you ever tried so hard to make something happen only to find resistance at every turn? Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the right connection appears. The perfect opportunity falls into place, and it feels almost too good to be true. That's not a coincidence. That's God clearing the path for you. His blessings don't always show up the way we expect, but they always arrive exactly when we need them. These moments remind you that God is working behind the scenes, moving pieces into place while you're still trying to figure out the puzzle. When God begins to bless you, He aligns you with people and places you could never have reached on your own. You'll notice people showing up in your life who support your vision, encourage your growth, and challenge you to rise higher. These aren't just good people, they're God-sent, divine connections that help you step into the next level of your purpose. You begin to walk through doors you didn't even knock on, because when you're in alignment with God's plan, He opens them before you even arrive. But every door that opens comes with a calling. God doesn't just lead you to new opportunities for your benefit. He does it to grow you and prepare you for greater impact. These blessings are invitations to serve at a higher level, to walk in obedience, to trust deeper. When you step into a door God has opened, you're also stepping into a new season of responsibility. And yet, even in that new weight, there is grace, because God never opens a door for you without also equipping you for what's inside. That's why it's so important to stay in tune with His voice. Not every open door is from Him. Some are distractions designed to pull you off your path. But when it's truly from God, it will come with peace, clarity, and confirmation. You won't have to beg, chase, or manipulate. His blessings will be marked by ease, even if the work itself is challenging. You'll feel a divine assurance that says, "This is it. This is where you're meant to be." And in that moment, you'll know this door wasn't opened by your effort, but by His favor. So when the doors begin to open and you find yourself stepping into rooms you once only dreamed about, don't forget who made it all possible. Give Him the glory, stay humble, and walk through those doors with boldness and gratitude, knowing that what lies ahead was tailor-made for you by the one who sees the whole picture. When God blesses you, the change doesn't just happen around you, it happens within you. One of the most undeniable signs of His favor is the transformation that takes root in your character. You start to notice that your responses are different. The old habits that used to control you begin to lose their grip. You're no longer quick to anger, no longer overwhelmed by envy or pride. Instead, there's a new calm, a new compassion, a deeper patience that flows from within. This isn't just you trying to be better. This is God refining you, His Spirit working inside you to mold you into someone who reflects His heart. This change is gradual, but powerful. Where once there was frustration, now there is grace. Where once there was bitterness, now there is forgiveness. And as this shift takes place, people around you begin to notice. They may not be able to put it into words, but they'll feel it. There's something different about you, something steady, grounded, and full of light. That's not just self-improvement. That's divine transformation. It's a spiritual glow that only God can ignite. When He blesses you, you become a mirror that reflects His character and love to everyone around you. You'll also begin to see the fruits of the Spirit become more evident in your life, not because you're forcing it, but because you're connected to the source. Love becomes easier to give, even to people who are hard to love. Joy bubbles up in your heart, not because life is perfect, but because you're anchored in something greater. Peace remains even in the middle of chaos. Patience stretches further than it ever has. Kindness becomes second nature. Faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control begin to show up in your words, your choices, and your habits. These are not just qualities, they are the evidence that God's blessing is alive and active in your life. And the beautiful thing about this inner transformation is that it blesses others too. Your presence starts to uplift people. Your words carry more weight. Your actions inspire. When God blesses you, your life becomes a vessel of His goodness. People find healing in your words, hope in your testimony, and strength in your example. You begin to understand that His blessings weren't just meant to stop with you, they were meant to flow through you. You become the blessing. Even more, your identity begins to shift. You stop defining yourself by your past, by your struggles, or by the labels the world has given you. Instead, you begin to see yourself the way God sees you, loved, chosen, worthy, and called. That identity becomes your foundation. It keeps you grounded when life tries to shake you. It keeps you focused when distractions come. It reminds you that no matter what's happening around you, something greater is happening within you. So if you've been sensing a change in your character, if you've been loving more, forgiving more, growing more, that's not random. That's God. That's His blessing. Don't overlook it, because when He blesses you, He changes you. And through that change, He prepares you to carry even greater purpose and power. One of the most beautiful and unmistakable signs that God is blessing your life is when your desires begin to shift. It's subtle at first. Things you once chased, money, recognition, status, begin to lose their grip on your heart. And in their place, something deeper begins to grow. You find yourself longing for alignment, not achievement. You begin to crave peace over popularity, purpose over applause, service over self. This isn't just maturity, it's a spiritual realignment. When God blesses you, He doesn't just give you what you want, He gives you new wants. He changes what you're drawn to. You start to find joy in things you never paid attention to before, helping someone in need, showing up for a friend, spending quiet time in His presence. The rush of worldly success can't compare to the stillness you feel when you know you're doing what He created you to do. The noise of ambition begins to fade, and in its place you hear His voice guiding you. Your goals change. Your definition of success changes. And suddenly you realize that true fulfillment doesn't come from chasing your own dreams, but from stepping into His plan for your life. This shift is not about losing ambition. It's about redirecting it. You still want to grow, to create, to build. But now, it's not just about what you can gain. It's about what you can give. Your success becomes a tool, not a trophy. You want your wins to bless others, your talents to serve a greater good, your life to leave a legacy that points back to Him. When God blesses you, your gifts are no longer just for you. They become instruments for healing, encouragement, and purpose in the lives of others. You also begin to see time differently. Instead of rushing through life to tick off accomplishments, you slow down. You become more present, more intentional. You understand that every moment is part of something eternal. You stop chasing what fades and start investing in what lasts. Love, faith, generosity, wisdom. And as your values shift, your prayers change too. You're no longer just asking His things. You're asking for clarity, for direction, for wisdom, for the strength to obey when obedience is uncomfortable. This alignment doesn't just bring peace, it brings power. Because when your heart matches His, your life becomes magnetic. Things begin to flow. Opportunities align. The right people come, the right doors open. Not because you're striving harder, but because you're finally in sync with divine timing. You're no longer swimming upstream. You're flowing with the current of His purpose. And there's no force on earth more powerful than a life fully aligned with God's will. So if your desires are shifting, if the things that used to excite you now feel empty, and the things of God now stir your soul, know this, that's His blessing. That's Him drawing you closer. That's the kind of transformation that only happens when you're being prepared for more. When God blesses you, He introduces you to a kind of fulfillment that this world can't replicate. It's not found in shiny accolades, social status, or a padded bank account. It's the quiet, steady knowing that you're living exactly the life you were designed to live. That you're not just existing, you're walking in purpose. The world teaches us to measure success by how much we gain. But God's blessings flip that script. He teaches us to measure fulfillment by how much peace we carry, how much love we give, and how closely we're walking with Him. There's a deep satisfaction that settles in your soul when you realize you don't have to chase anymore. You don't have to prove your worth or fight for recognition. You are already seen, already valued, already chosen by God. And that truth fills you in a way that applause never could. That kind of fulfillment doesn't come from external approval. It comes from internal alignment. It's the reward of knowing you're on the right path, following the right voice, and becoming the person God always intended you to be. And make no mistake, this kind of fulfillment will outlast every temporary high the world offers, because the car fades, the promotion loses its shine, the praise quiets down. But the peace that comes from walking with God, that stays, that strengthens, that builds you from the inside out. You begin to realize that fulfillment isn't about having more. It's about becoming more. And when God blesses you, He makes sure you're becoming someone who can carry peace through chaos and joy through difficulty. This shift also brings freedom. When you're fulfilled in God, you're no longer bound by comparison. You stop measuring your worth against others' highlight reels. You stop feeling like you're behind. You start living in the confidence that your story is unfolding exactly as it should. You stop needing validation from people because you've already received affirmation from God. And in that space, you breathe easier, you live lighter, you love deeper, because you're no longer trying to earn something you already have. His favor, One of the most powerful signs of this divine fulfillment is the way it reshapes your ambitions. You don't stop dreaming. You just start dreaming differently. Instead of asking, what can I get? You begin asking, what can I give? Instead of pushing your own agenda, you ask, God, what do you want to do through me? That shift is where purpose is born. That's where impact begins. Because when your life becomes less about building your own kingdom and more about building His, fulfillment flows like a river that never runs dry. So if you've found yourself less interested in the rat race and more hungry for peace, for meaning, for significance, take heart. That's a sign you're being blessed. That's the whisper of God pulling you deeper, inviting you to experience what this world could never offer. True, lasting, soul-level fulfillment. When God blesses you, one of the most astonishing shifts is how you begin to see the world through new eyes. It's not just your heart that changes, it's your entire perspective. You start to notice beauty in the simple things, the way the morning light spills into your room, the sound of laughter from someone you love, the comfort of silence in God's presence. These moments used to pass you by, but now they feel like glimpses of heaven. That's what happens when God's blessing is upon you. He tunes your spirit to appreciate what truly matters. You begin to see people differently too. Where you once saw flaws, now you see stories. Where you once held resentment, now you feel compassion. It's not that you're blind to the reality of others, it's that your heart has been softened. God has planted seeds of grace in you, and they're growing fast. You find yourself more patient, more understanding, and more willing to see the best in people, even when they don't show it. That's because God's blessing doesn't just make you feel good, it makes you good. It changes how you see others because it changes how you see yourself. This transformation also impacts how you handle challenges. Before, adversity might have left you bitter or defeated, but now, even in the middle of trials, you feel a strange assurance. It's not that the pain disappears, it's that your confidence in God is louder than the chaos around you. You begin to recognize storms as setups for strength, losses as lessons, delays as divine protection. Every moment becomes meaningful when you realize that God is working all things together for your good. That's a blessing money can't buy. Wisdom born from experience and anchored in faith. As your perspective shifts, so does your posture. You stop living with clenched fists and start living with open hands. You become more generous, not just with your resources, but with your time, your encouragement, your prayers. You stop hoarding and start sharing because you've learned that everything you have is a gift, and gifts are meant to be given. When God blesses you, He opens your heart. And when your heart is open, blessings flow through you, not just to you. You also begin to feel more connected to your purpose. You're no longer just going through the motions. Each day has a reason. Each decision has weight. You're guided not by fear or pressure, but by clarity and peace. You feel the gentle nudge of the Holy Spirit, reminding you that you're part of something bigger than yourself, that your life is a thread in a much larger tapestry. And suddenly, even ordinary days feel sacred. Even simple conversations feel purposeful. You're no longer looking for signs. You become the sign of God's presence in the world. So if you've been sensing this shift, if things feel more meaningful, if your heart feels softer, if your life feels more aligned, that's not accidental. That's blessing. That's evidence that God is not just changing your circumstances. He's changing you from the inside out. When God blesses you, one of the quietest but most powerful changes is the inner strength that begins to grow. It's not something you always notice right away, but it shows up in the way you carry yourself, in how you face hard days, in how you keep going when everything in you wants to give up. You begin to realize that the strength you're moving with isn't coming from you alone. It's supernatural. It's grace in motion. And it's a sign that God is upholding you, reinforcing you, and preparing you for what's next. There comes a point in your journey where you look back and realize, I should have broken down. I should have lost my mind. I should have been done. But you're still here. You're still standing. And it's not because you're stronger than others. It's because God strengthened you in secret. While others saw your calm, He saw your tears. While others saw your smile, He held your brokenness. And in that invisible space between pain and purpose, he deposited resilience in you. That's his blessing, quiet power that carries you through loud storms. This divine strength doesn't just help you endure, it helps you grow. You start to become someone you never imagined. Braver, wiser, more grounded. You begin responding to life with faith rather than fear, with prayer instead of panic. And the people around you notice. They wonder how you stay so calm, so steady, so full of grace. What they don't see is the war you fought to get there, the spiritual battles that forged your strength in the fire of adversity. But God saw it all, and he honored it by turning your weakness into a testimony of his power. Another sign of this inner strength is your new relationship with silence. Before, silence felt empty. Now it feels sacred. You've learned that you don't need to always explain yourself, prove yourself, or defend yourself. You know that God fights for you, that he sees what others can't. That vindication comes from him, not from arguing your case. That kind of peace takes strength, and that kind of strength is only possible when you know who you are and whose you are. Even your ability to wait becomes a form of power. The old you would have rushed ahead, tried to force things, or settled out of fear. But the blessed you wait on God. You trust his timing. You don't panic when things don't move quickly, because you know delay doesn't mean denial. It just means preparation. That quiet confidence, the ability to rest while others strive, that's divine strength. That's what it looks like when God is holding you up. So if you've noticed that you don't fall apart the way you used to, that you bounce back faster, that you hold your peace longer, that you trust deeper, know this, that's his blessing. That's not just emotional growth. That's spiritual maturity. That's God giving you strength for every season he's calling you into. When God blesses you, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to walk in favor that you didn't chase, pray, or strive for. It comes to you. Opportunities begin to locate you before you even know to ask for them. Resources arrive before the need arises. Answers find you before you finish the question. This isn't luck. It's not coincidence. It's favor. And favor is one of the clearest signs that God's hand is on your life. He begins to move ahead of you, paving roads, shifting outcomes, and preparing rooms that your name will be called into before you even arrive. You'll notice people are drawn to you not because of anything flashy, but because of what you carry. There's something about you that feels peaceful, authentic, trustworthy. That's God's light reflecting through you. His favor will place you in spaces you didn't qualify for by human standards. But grace says you belong here, and you'll find yourself stepping into rooms you once thought were off limits. When God blesses you with favor, he bypasses the resume, the credentials, the expectations of man, and ushers you in based on your obedience and trust in him. But favor isn't just about access, it's about assignment. God doesn't give you favor so you can shine for yourself. He gives you favor so that his glory can shine through you. So that when people look at your life, they see evidence of his goodness. When you walk in favor, your success becomes a testimony. Your presence becomes a reminder that God elevates those who walk humbly, love deeply, and serve faithfully. Favor is not about ego, it's about impact. Favor also protects you. Sometimes the blessing isn't in what God gives you, but in what he keeps you from. You'll look back at missed opportunities, unanswered prayers, and closed doors and realize they were acts of mercy. He rerouted you not to punish you, but to preserve you. He knows where favor will flourish and where it will be wasted. And in his wisdom, he positions you where his blessing will be sustained. That kind of protection is one of the most overlooked but powerful signs of divine favor. Even your enemies become part of the blessing. When God favors you, even those who try to sabotage you will end up witnessing your rise. He prepares a table in the presence of those who doubted you, dismissed you, or tried to block you. But the table isn't for revenge, it's for revelation, so that they may see what only God could do. That's favor. It doesn't come from pleasing people, it comes from pleasing God. So if you started noticing things falling into place, people offering unexpected kindness, opportunities finding you with ease, don't question it. That's not just a good day. That's the result of walking in alignment. That's favor chasing you down because you've stayed close to the one who never loses track of his promises. When God blesses you, the ripple effect begins. It's no longer just about you receiving, it's about others receiving through you. Your life becomes a conduit, a flowing river of hope, kindness, and wisdom. You start to notice how your words encourage others in ways you didn't expect, how your presence brings calm into chaotic spaces, how your story gives someone else the courage to keep going. That's what happens when you're truly blessed. Your life starts preaching without a pulpit. You become living proof of God's faithfulness. This shift isn't about performance or pressure. It's about overflow. God fills you so completely that you can't help but pour into others. The comfort he gave you during your trials becomes the comfort you pass on. The lessons you learned in the valley become the advice that lifts someone else out of theirs. You realize that every hardship you survived, every prayer you whispered in the dark, was preparing you to be someone's light. That's the true beauty of God's blessing. It multiplies through you. People begin to come to you, not for gossip, not for games, but for wisdom, for prayer, for support. And you'll find yourself giving from a place of peace, not depletion. That's because God never calls you to pour from an empty cup. He fills you first. And when he does, you're able to serve with joy, speak with clarity, and love without fear. The more you bless others, the more you realize this is the assignment. This is the purpose, to be a reflection of his love in a world that's starving for it. And this doesn't always happen on big stages or with grand gestures. Sometimes the greatest blessings you give are in the smallest moments, a genuine compliment, a silent prayer for a stranger, a helping hand when no one is watching. These acts may seem simple, but they carry divine weight, because when God blesses you, he makes every moment meaningful, every interaction sacred. You start living with a sense of mission, knowing that every day is an opportunity to shine his light. This new way of living also shifts your sense of responsibility. You understand that you've been entrusted with influence, not to elevate yourself, but to uplift others. You stop asking, what can I get out of this? And start asking, who can I help through this? Whether it's through your business, your art, your voice, or your time, God will use it all. And when he blesses your work, your generosity, your example, it grows into something eternal. So if people around you are being uplifted by your presence, if lives are being impacted by your story, if hearts are being softened by your kindness, don't take it lightly. That's not random. That's legacy. That's God using your life as a living blessing. And in that, you're walking in the highest form of his favor. When God blesses you, everything begins to align, not always perfectly on the outside, but undeniably within. There's a wholeness that begins to form, a completeness that doesn't come from circumstances, but from connection. You're no longer scrambling to find your place. You're rooted in it. You begin to feel like you're finally walking in rhythm with the life God designed for you. You're not chasing anymore. You're flowing, and that flow comes from abiding in him. That's the final undeniable sign of divine blessing, when everything in your life starts to echo his presence, his purpose, and his peace. You know you're walking in his blessing when your identity is no longer fragile. You don't shrink for approval, and you don't puff up for validation. You just walk steadily, confidently, humbly, because you know who you are and who you belong to. The noise of the world grows quieter. The pressure to perform loses its grip. You're no longer building your life for applause. You're building it for eternity. And that clarity is a gift, a blessing that brings freedom, direction, and rest. As this blessing matures, your relationships shift too. You find yourself surrounded by people who are aligned with your spirit, people who support your growth, speak life into your dreams, and challenge you in love. God begins to remove what distracts and replace it with what strengthens. Some relationships fade, and that's okay. Not everything is meant to last forever, but what stays, what grows is solid, purposeful, fruitful. That's how you know it's from him. Even your struggles start to carry meaning. You no longer see them as setbacks, but as sacred lessons. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this growing in me? That's a sure sign that God's blessing has matured in you. When pain turns into wisdom, delay turns into depth, and hardship becomes harvest. Nothing is wasted. Every scar tells a story of God's sustaining grace, and your life becomes a living witness, not just of survival, but of transformation. This is the place where purpose and peace kiss, where you're no longer waiting to arrive because you realize you're already there. You're not perfect, but you're present. You're not without struggle, but you're deeply anchored. And most importantly, you're not doing it alone. God is walking with you, working through you, and blessing you in ways you can't always see, but can always feel. This is the fullness of divine blessing. It reshapes you, repurposes your life, and reverberates through everyone you touch. So if you're reading this right now and something inside you says, this is my season, believe it. You're not imagining things. God is blessing you, even in the waiting, even in the wilderness. Type, I receive his fullness in the comments if you know this word was for you. Let it be your declaration that you're ready to walk in everything he's prepared for you, because your time is not just coming, it's here.